CertaSite, a relative newcomer to the fire life safety business, has been setting the market ablaze with the swiftness of a backdraft. Find out how the assertive leadership of a seasoned CEO and savvy investors aim to raise the bar on innovation, expertise, and service. Joining me for this conversation are CEO Jeff Wyatt and CMO Kelly Henderson, both of whom came over to CertaSite from Corson Fire and Security. They spoke with me about growing the business, contending with COVID, hot vertical markets, and building company culture. For more on CertaSite, don't miss the March 2022 issue of Security Sales and Integration. Be sure to subscribe to SSI's YouTube channel. Hit the like button, share, and leave comments. Or subscribe to SSI's Security Speaking podcast on Apple and Spotify. And leave us a review. Thank you. So my understanding is that the company basically was launched in 2018. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. And, you know, from my perspective as an industry person, it really came on like gangbusters. You know, I mean, you guys have just hit the ground running and it's been very impressive. So could you tell me how and why the company was founded and the process of getting it launched?
You bet. You know, the fire life safety industry, and I think the security industry as well, there is a significant focus on consolidation and a buildup, if you will, of resources. You know, when you think about today's world, having a company that's a little bit larger, more resources, more experience, is able to navigate some of these difficult waters a little easier, perhaps, with that. And so when I left my previous employer, I was just very fortunate to step into a world of several private equity firms that were looking to start a fire life safety buildup. And what's unique about my situation is most investment firms want to start at a larger size and then grow from there. Many of my competitors started at a larger size. In my case, the Riverside company, who's our private equity firm, was actually interested in starting from the ground up, taking someone like myself with my experience. And, you know, as I met with them and talked about, you know, my experience prior to, you know, working for a family business and, you know, building up a very nice sized regional family owned business, I wanted to do something a little bit different, but I also understood the basic concept of, hey, let's build a fire life safety company. And so we shared, you know, kind of our thoughts on how that would happen. Of course, they from a financial perspective and a professional business perspective, and mine from an industry and experience perspective, as well as thinking about what I'd do differently if I owned a business versus when I was leading a business. And Scott, I have to tell you, I just had the absolute blessing to be selected and to be given this opportunity. I started in June of 2018 with an acquisition of County Fire Protection, and County was about 30 employees. So it wasn't a big acquisition, but about 30 employees. And that allowed us to add a few locations on top of that and kind of get started, if you will. And the idea was, let's get the base business started. And so that included the acquisition of County Fire, Approved Protection Systems, and Fields Fire, back-to-back, 3 acquisitions back-to-back. And that got that base business established. And then really start working on how we integrate and start growing the business from there. And to your point, you know, we have been really in a sense of organically as well as inorganically, we've been growing the business very aggressively. We've described it as flying the plane while we're building it. It's no joke. It does feel that way at times, especially even as when I think back on it, you know, that first year in particular. My goodness, you know, I was the only executive in the company, and then we added a CFO, and then ultimately an operations leader, and then someone like Kelly. I mean, it took a while to get a team built. Yet I had multiple, you know, businesses that were coming together, you know, to start what CertaSite is today. And that was just an incredible experience. I used every ounce of experience that I had, every idea in my brain. And then I used every resource that was available to me, both from the equity firm and the consultants and the experience that they had in a buildup, but also all the people that we'd acquired. There's so much talent in the people that we acquired through these acquisitions that it didn't take me long to figure out, oh, man, I've actually got, a lot of really solid people to lean on and to ask to help us, build this company in the right way. And many of those people have been promoted since we acquired the businesses, and it's been a lot of fun to watch that. I'll finish with just the comment that we, what I love about this opportunity is there is the basics of building a fire protection platform, and any investment firm will tell you, look, the goal is you want to grow it fast, you want to make it profitable, you want to do all the right things financially, okay? And we certainly are very focused on that, and we're a professional business. But you also have the opportunity that I have to come into this as a former executive of another business and say, man, again, what would I do with it? What things would I do differently? And that has been probably the most rewarding aspect of this. I've taken a lot of what I did and I've repeated it because it works. It's the right answer. It's how you do it, right? And I was part of that there. But when I think about what we're doing a little bit differently here, it's been really cool to be able to bring those to light. And I'll talk more about those as we go along here. But, when I think about just technology all by itself, that was a major focus of ours, that we wanted to be a tech leader in the space. And, if you know the life safety industry very well, there's a whole lot of people that are not tech savvy or tech interested. So that in itself was going to be a differentiator for us.
Thank you for that. Kelly, did you want to add anything to that or move on?
We can move on.
Okay. So how many acquisitions in total now comprise the business, and about how many employees?
Yeah, we just finished our 15th acquisition of a company called Teasley Fire Protection in Frankfort, Kentucky last week. So that's our 15th acquisition. We are now at about 368 employees overall.
A few things you mentioned in talking about what you dealt with, and I was curious, from a acquisition standpoint, did you find that the pandemic has made some companies maybe more willing to sell than they might have been pre-pandemic?
Yeah, Scott, interesting. We had several in queue, and it definitely, I think for those owners, maybe this is definitely the right step for me to take because of this crazy world that we're living in, But I have to admit, I didn't feel like there was a massive rush to find out who to sell to as that pandemic happened and then people came out of it. I think in part because owners were really reeling from the impact of it, and so they didn't feel confident in their results, that they could take those results and get paid accordingly or valued accordingly to make sure they can have that retirement nest egg that they needed. Through the pandemic, I feel like a lot of owners felt a kind of a renewed connection or sense of connection to their employees, and so I think also some owners kind of retrenched themselves, if you will, in making sure that they got their business back. I think about any business owner that builds something and it's a really nice business, and then something like that happens. That you can't blame anybody. It happened, and then all you want to do is fight as hard as you can to get it back to where it should be, because this is your business and you've really worked hard to build your business. And I feel like that, in all honesty, people wanted to do that. Now, with that said, 2 years later, okay, yes, it's definitely showing up today that I'm seeing a much better opportunity for us. We're seeing more activity today than we saw a year ago. And I think that's certainly encouraging for us, because, there are a whole lot of business owners out there who have built their retirement nest egg. They do want to ultimately step away at some point, or they've learned that they need to be part of something a little bigger to help them navigate not only that, but whatever else is coming. People talk about what's the next wave, is it going to be something else? And so I think there is a fair amount of concern about that, and so they're at least evaluating whether this now is the time. But again, interestingly enough, at the beginning, no, I didn't feel like it was. But a year or so later, almost 2 years later now in particular, here we are, and I feel like it has definitely made some owners, again, this might be the right time now that they've righted their ship and they're ready to take a look.
Interesting. That seems to coincide sort of with the great resignation thing about people reevaluating their lives and their balance and what they want to do in business and personal and all that. So your recurring revenue piece, as we sit here now, is the leading one inspections and maintenance, or would it be the alarm monitoring?
Oh, inspection and maintenance. Yes, sir. The alarm monitoring is an area that, in my mind, we have a long way to go, but we have built it up quite nicely already. But no, inspection maintenance of the various systems, again, fire extinguishers, fire alarm, sprinkler, suppression, those areas, that's definitely a leading part of our organization.
And what's the business footprint right now?
I think we just added our 8th state, being in Kentucky. So we have a big focus, Scott. When I started this business, the one thing I wanted to do was maintain. I didn't want to shotgun the entire country for acquisitions and then end up in Colorado and in New Jersey and down in Florida. While I understand why some people do it that way, I mean, again, you're looking for opportunities, and sometimes they come in different markets than you want to be in, maybe right now. But we took a very intentional approach at CertaSite with our plan to stay in the Midwest and really build out the Midwest. So from Western Pennsylvania all the way over to Iowa, up to Wisconsin, and now down into Kentucky. So everything in between, we've got 18 locations. Everything in between is where we are today. And, I would like to see us continue to really work on building that out. I've talked about 40 locations. It would be a good target in my mind for the Midwest. So a long way to go. But the reason that I say that is when you look at what's the value of having so many brick and mortar locations. Well, it's obviously the efficiency at which you can operate the business, the level of customer service you can give when you have locations that are within a certain distance of each other. You're sharing resources, you're sharing people, material. In my mind, while there's a cost, brick and mortar cost to doing that, there's a huge upside from a business efficiency and customer service that as I look at the Midwest, 40 is the number I put on it based upon me kind of looking at, all right, if I were to do this right, what would that look like? So a lot of work to do yet, but that's the plan.
I think also that helps with referrals and just branding. You have those marked vehicles in those areas and things like that. I mean, it just makes it part of the community. I think there's a lot of value in having actual locations.
Yeah. I agree. We're a very community interested company. We want to make an impact, and not only in our own people's lives and our customers' lives, but also in our communities. And so what I really enjoy about being in, Kalamazoo, Michigan, as an example, is that, we can have, we're a business there. We've got a nice operation. We can do something in the Kalamazoo market and make a difference, in one way or another. But then we're also, because we're also in Grand Rapids, we're also able to have that efficiency of again, sharing a lot of resources. And I think that our MPS scoring, as an example, is a way that we're starting to see customers benefit from, whether the technician came out of this office or that office, they were able to take care of the customer in the time that they needed it done. And I think that will continue to be a high priority for us.
And Kelly touched on some of them, but could you detail, the vertical markets that you're strongest in and most focused on?
You bet. Manufacturing is an example of one, and I'm not really speaking about a Ford and GM. I'm talking about a lot of other different types of manufacturers. I think when the pandemic hit, I don't think we had a clue, really, honestly, how many different types of manufacturing there is. But we have a lot of that. We have utilities. We also are very involved in the healthcare space, education. I would say retail, but really from the standpoint of more warehousing. I wouldn't say we're very big in the arena of doing the local retail store. My wife and I own some ice cream stores. We do services at my wife's ice cream stores, but I would say my wife's ice cream store is probably not our ideal customer. But when I think about retail, I think about, the warehouses that are, the big distribution centers and such. We're very involved in that type of an application as well. A little bit of government. We're not a huge government player at this time, although we are working towards a stronger government direction here with some work we're doing with our sales and marketing organization. But those would be, in my mind, probably the largest.
Is there one or two of those that you're keenest on, or you see as the best growth opportunity?
Well, I would say this, because we are not a big player in the government space today, I think that's a great opportunity for us. CertaSite with what we offer and the area that we cover, I think there's a really good opportunity for us to grow that area of the business quite well. Healthcare, I think everybody I talk to in this industry says healthcare is where you want to be, right? Because it's a very code driven, and/or there's a lot of rules around the healthcare space that you've got to do this and you've got to do that in order to get all the funding and so forth. And so I don't want to suggest that is not a major area of focus for us, because it certainly is. But I would just say, most of my competitors are right there with me saying, yeah, that's the place we want to be. So it's one that has its set of challenges. We've got to make sure that we can truly differentiate, and I believe that we can. But again, a customer has to really be able to see that differentiator that Kelly was talking about earlier with our portal and our inspection reporting and our planning tools. There's a lot of things that we're doing, that I think are going to be exciting to the healthcare space. But we've got to be able to show that, and that's certainly encouraging to me. So if I had to just say it, certainly government will be my top area of growth opportunities in my mind. And then also certainly the healthcare space, we've got some great room to grow there, great opportunities especially with recent acquisitions that we've done. But we'll continue to really, really enjoy, the manufacturing and utility space. Those are a couple of areas I see that we're just solid. We're solid fits for them, and we seem to really excel with those vertical markets in particular.
And did you participate in bid projects and things like that, or just mostly referrals, or how has most of your business come in?
Yeah, I would say, 85% of our business is referral based, end user based. We're doing work for an existing client or one that we've added, recently through our sales. We've got an amazing sales and marketing team. It's one of the things that I felt good about in my previous life. But I tell you, when you add this really strong professional sales and marketing platform that we've been able to do here, it's been really amazing to watch every single month how many ideal customers, and we've identified who's ideal for us, right? How many ideal customers we're adding to the organization every single month, which is allowing us to really make sure that we're putting all of our labor in the right direction. It's the customers that really best fit our organization. Relative to the bid market, we do have a few markets where the acquisitions that we did, those companies participated in the bid market, but I would say very little of it is you throw a number at it. Most of it is negotiated. And so because these companies have a tremendous relationship through the general contractor or electrical contractor market, there's already a wealth of relationships and experience that those companies have been able to work on with those contractors. As a result, those same people are still there. We don't lose hardly anybody. We make acquisitions, so it's really great that all those core people in particular are still there and they're working with these folks. And so we generally continue that same model. So where there are bids per se being put out there, many of them are on a negotiated basis.
And you talked about this industry being a little bit slow on adopting new technology. What are a couple of areas of technology that you're very interested in, or you see making an impact on the business that you're engaged in?
This is a fantastic question, so thank you for it. I'm going to let Kelly answer, because when I think about really where has Kelly been spending a lot of her time and energy, I think she's even been a janitor too. But I mean, she's done everything that she could do to help CertaSite be who we are today. And one of the areas that she and I were so connected on when I asked her to join the company, that I did not want to be a old school fire protection company. And please let me tell you, no disrespect to anybody who is. But when I think about what I thought we needed to do differently at CertaSite, and when I think about my wife pushing the Amazon button, every day, I felt like we needed to be able to work toward, a similar model in that sense. So Kelly, please take it and run with it.
Sure. Thank you, Jeff. I think about technology in terms of ultimately what does the customer benefit from in terms of ease of use. And as CertaSite's main vision of delivering the most dependable and simplified life safety solution on the planet, while that's big and audacious, it's intentional. We thought about ultimately how do you create also a working experience that working here is easy, because ultimately what we recognize is that if it's hard to work as one of our employees, and it's hard to deliver the best customer experience. So while technology enables all of that for us, it certainly is the foundation of how do we connect this to make it as simple as possible. And we have what I would say is revolutionized in terms of our tech stack, and end to end, we have one customer record, all of these systems integrated, fully integrated, to where if you're a customer service rep and you answer the phone, you know exactly what the information was last time we serviced your account. So ultimately, things are in a file cabinet, and they're not having to go ask 5 people to find out the last time we serviced the customer and what deficiencies were found, or what inspections are coming that are upcoming due, and how do you even then take it beyond that to be more preventative and out there to where you're communicating ahead of where the customer is and their expectations. And certainly all of that took technology and having strong data integrity and making sure from point to point, every technology or innovation we put into place, is it easy? Will it integrate? And does this enable a better customer experience, are the questions that we asked. And I would say by the end of the middle of 2020, we had that system fully integrated. So all to the point today that even customer has access to their information. Technicians are barcoding and labeling and tracking each device. So when they go out there, we'll scan it with a QR code. They collect the information. It pops up on their screen the next time they go out, the last time it was inspected, the serial number, and all the information if there was a deficiency against it. Ultimately, to where it's in the customer's information, they understand and they have reports on it. They know when their next services are due. They know what needs to be repaired. We're quoting it within 24 to 48 hours if something needs to be serviced. And ultimately, to come back to the place where we have the information so the customer can access it. On the people side, because technology only works if you have people in place to really enable that and communicate, we really looked at our workforce and looked across to figure out who are the roles that we need in order to support the customer journey. And at the time, when you think about acquisitions and really what fire and protection and security companies have a lot of admin doing a lot of different things. And so we really help to discern and decipher who's doing customer success type of work in terms of answering the phone, supporting the customer, communicating and giving them access, enabling them and helping to let them know they have services coming due or if they have questions, and which ones are really doing invoicing and billing and more of the financial piece, and helping to break that out. So we had people who were more intentionally focused on the customer versus they're also doing invoicing, billing, HR, AP, all the things in between. So we really helped to give that. And now we're developing training programs specific to customer success in those roles, and they have more focused effort. So as a salesperson and marketing is going out and bringing in new customers and communicating our value, now we have a customer onboarding experience that helps welcome the customer, help them know what they're going to get with CertaSite services coming due, services when we're going to be out there. What other ways can we help them service you? Here's access to your information, and this is how you utilize it. And just continuing to communicate with them in a more proactive way versus reactive. And so certainly we still have a lot of work there, but we had the main pieces in place that enable us as a company to continue to supply that information to our customers and just continue to build that roadmap out. So that was a monumental achievement for us. And for many of the companies I've worked with, and some of the challenges when you work with a really large company that's maybe older, it's hard to change. Change management is difficult in a very large company. And I've come from a lot of large companies, and I've seen them try to attempt integration and all the different business functions. And I've not seen one company achieve what we have. And so one of my proudest points is the fact that we have a fully integrated system we were growing fast, and we're working in an environment where a lot of individuals have been in the industry for 45 years. So we have been constantly training and developing, and we showed up and brought all sorts of change management. But a lot of the individuals are very excited about it. There's a younger workforce that's hungry for technology, technicians that want to use their mobile device. And of course, there's individuals that are our late adopters that really struggle with change. And so we really work with everyone to try to make it as easy as possible. And so it has been a great opportunity to be completely past the implementation process, and now just how do we continue to train and develop. So ultimately, everyone's following the process and giving those customers that great experience and making life easier for our technicians, our customer service teams, and our sales organization so we can better serve the customer.
Got the worst experience in my entire career as a leader, ERP implementation. I think there's a lot of people out there, if they read that, they're going to go, oh yeah. I mean, we've all heard about the big manufacturers that have gone through SAP or whatever brand, right? And a lot of challenges that came from that. And so I went through a very difficult ERP implementation in my previous role. And so when I came to CertaSite, one of the most important components that I thought we needed to focus on was technology. But I ultimately, but I would say I was very concerned about what that looked like. How would we do that? How would we do this well so we didn't disrupt the business and deal with all the challenges that come with technology? And with Kelly, Becky Hardwick, who's our director of technology, our finance team, again, having the support of a private equity firm that's done this many times over and over again, and the support they gave us, I'm really happy to tell you that it was in June of 20 when we turned the switch on, and everybody went live, with Sage Intacct, and then of course with that came all the other integrated pieces, such as our field service, our sales and marketing platform, all of our inspection software, et cetera. All this came together at one time, and I got to admit, I was a little nervous leading up to that point after my previous experience, but we were smaller than that company. We had a lot of applications that were more ideal, I think, for that scenario. But boy, I just got to tell you, I mean, it's probably one of the most exciting things for me as the leader of this company, the level of technology implementation that we've done and integration that allows not only our technicians, our field staff, our sales and marketing team, our HR has great software associated with it as well. But then what that customer is benefiting from by our use of our technology and how that benefits them, which ultimately is how, in my mind, we continue to win a lot of business and grow the business. But I thought it'd be interesting to note that, man, when people ask, what's the worst thing that's ever happened in your career? ERP implementation, and man, that was no fun. I think I definitely added some gray hairs in those days.
Again, some anxiety just listening to that whole process. It's so much to get your arms around,
It is.
Yeah,
really
Scott,
is.
I will say in addition to 12 central stations, we had 12 QuickBooks accounts at some point that our finance team was managing. So we've merged all of those into one. So it's been quite a journey, and we continue. We're not done. And so every time I can connect with our teams in the field and hey, give us feedback. And that's really, we're done really with the biggest change. But I tell everyone, this is not a one and done. We're going to constantly be trying to get your feedback and find ways to make it better. Make it better for you as a technician, make it better for our customers. The partnership with CMS is certainly another upgrade to our customer experience. So from 11 central stations, most of which were not managed in a way we would see as a simplified user experience, partnering with CMS certainly makes that easier with the myalarms.com. And now the customer has access to their information and they can manage. But ultimately, we just constantly are looking for feedback from our users, from our customers, because we're not ever going to be done innovating. And that's what's fun, that now we're done implementing. Now we can really begin the process of innovating and making improvements. And that's really the culture that we're working to build and really instill in these organizations, which you think were small mom and pop little companies prior to, so they're not used to giving feedback, and and so ultimately, how do we build a framework around that? How do we get them talking? How do we get in the field to understand like what was undesirable today, or how can we make this better? what's a good idea of a customer experience you've had? And we're just constantly probing them so we can continue to improve. And I'd much rather be in that space than the implementation space that Jeff just shared. So it's exciting to be past that and really focused on continuous improvement.
What is the approximate customer base size?
Sorry.
What is the approximate customer base size?
Oh, in excess of 30,000.
Have you found that, are you engaged much in remote diagnostics at this point, whether it's for, I don't know if the extinguishers now can be monitored that way, or the sprinklers even, besides the alarm systems and all that? Where are you with that? Because potentially, obviously, you can save a lot of money on truck rolls, and during something like a pandemic, it can really come in handy. So,
well, I can share. Oh, go ahead, yeah. Jeff. You go ahead, and then I'll
say this real quick, Kelly. Then I'll flip it over to you. The interesting note is that there's no question the technology being used today in fire alarm systems, as an example, and I think a lot of security applications as well, is that you now have that benefit of being able to, in a sense, log in, see what's going on remotely. But gosh, we've got a lot of systems out there, that we've inherited through the acquisitions that are older, I should say. Even if they were installed 5 years ago, they don't have that same capability. So I feel like we're still a long way from, that purely based upon those systems. However, it is something that I feel the industry is really starting to really promote more to end users who are saying, yeah, that makes sense. I like that idea, the ability to do that. We do have our share of customers who we'll FaceTime with. And so it's a whole different kind of remote diagnostic, not necessarily what you're talking about, where we can log in and check on the panel, but having a customer be those eyes and ears for us that can help us kind of evaluate. To your point, Scott, if we can avoid a truck roll on a Sunday afternoon, for both of our benefit, I want my employees to enjoy their home time, and I want that customer not to get sticker shock when they get the invoice for that Sunday truck roll. But I'll say this, it's an area I do believe will become more and more part of when we think about the future of the fire life safety industry. I feel like technology will continue to drive us more in an area just like that. Kelly, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, while we're not there today, and we've certainly been a part of many thought leadership panels where it's interesting to see across the company other fire protection companies trying to use drone technology in large manufacturing plants, or other barcoding or ways that how do you make this a more innovative experience where people don't need to show up. But certainly, as we've looked at our data and our technology, a part of that is constantly being forward-looking, not just thinking about today, but where is this going to take us in the future? So not to be so rigid to say this is a decision in the moment, but our strategic partners and our technology stack, part of this conversation is exactly what you're talking about, is in the future, how can we limit the number of times we have to go on site? How can we use the information and machine learning from the data and the number of times we've been out on your site to service a panel to share, hey, we've had 25 deficiencies on this panel. You might consider replacing it next year. Put it in your budget. To the point where we're sitting there and we're actually able to use the data to take really good data mining to really understand how could we maybe productize this to the place where we're able to do monitoring type of systems beyond your standard central station monitoring, but to say, hey, we see a trouble here. We need to roll a truck for this instance. But I'd say we're just at the start of that, and I would say that we have definitely elevated ourselves in terms of our technology stack to enable us that the more data points we collect, the more understanding we'll have, and the more able we will be to really provide that sort of diagnostics experience. In addition to constantly looking at ways do we use drone technology or some sort of innovative way to better service the customer, or eliminate a safety hazard or risk that maybe doesn't need to be there because we have to have cranes and lifts in a way that our technicians are at risk, and ultimately provide a better inspection and process. But I like where your head's at. That was a great question. Thanks, Scott.
It's the dream, right? We'll have it coming eventually.
Yes.
Is there any particular role that you see video surveillance increasing its value and presence in the fire life safety space?
Absolutely. Again, one of the best parts for me at the President's Forum recently with CMS was to see some examples of how video technology, so not necessarily the camera itself, okay? I'm talking about how you take the data from the camera and you use that to validate things, whether it be theft or alarm. And so as I think about it from that perspective, I see, again, the alarm verification is one that we know across the industry, both from security and fire, that we struggle with. A hotel has a fire alarm that goes off and many people assume it's a false alarm, as an example, and that's not good. So when I think about these, the challenges our industry sees in both spaces, it's the ability to validate so that when police or fire are sent, it's for a real fire or a real, theft, emergency, et cetera. So I'm envisioning, and this is one of the areas that I see us focus on cross-selling ourselves, is how we will take that technology, the data points from cameras, and be able to provide our central station the information they need to make the right call, when it comes to the police or fire. I also, when I think too about how videos can be used to cover large areas, there's different platforms out there that we have been looking at to add to CertaSite that would allow us to look over a large outdoor area that would provide security. And I'm not talking about necessarily a camera at the end of a building, but maybe it's a self-supporting, self-sustaining, or so forth type of camera system that's providing, again, good feedback. It's saving the owner of that whatever business it is that is trying to figure out, how do I stop the theft, or how do I stop the issues that I'm seeing with my property. And I think that there's a number of different ways that will continue to be a part of it. People like video because it's something they can see, and I believe that being able to provide more of that in the world of fire protection in particular, but also security, is definitely an important thing that we'll be looking at.
Is there a particular vendor or two that is sort of your main supplier, for new systems, especially on the electronic side?
On the fire alarm side, the way that world works is you have territories. It's rare that a company gets to be one brand if they have multiple locations, because there are restrictions about the contract and the area you get to cover. So CertaSite is an example. Well, we sell Siemens fire alarm in one market, we sell EST in another, we sell Honeywell in a third, and we might sell, Fike in a fourth, right? So we have some different suppliers that we're working with, but those are some of the main ones. When I think about cameras and access controls, an example, we really don't have a main supplier. I think that we've allowed the legacy brands that these companies were using to continue because they have a nice install base, and because it has not been a major focus for us to become a security integrator or add that component of the business to CertaSite, and therefore we've not necessarily pursued those avenues in a big way, and so we end up using the brands that were in place, if you will, when we acquired the company. But from an electronic standpoint, I think those are, as I mentioned, some of the fire alarm brands that we're heavily involved in.
And Kelly mentioned KnoxBox. Could you just give a little information on what that entails?
Yeah. Kelly, would you like to go, or would you like me to do it?
Oh, go ahead.
KnoxBox is, when you think about a building and there's a fire and there really is something going on in that building, one of the things that we'd hate to have the fire department do is to knock down the door or, put a hole in the roof to get in. Now, granted, they might do that to fight the fire, but my point is we need to be able to give them access to a building that's not manned so that they can go in. And so KnoxBox has products that allow that to be done. So if I'm in let's say the city of Indianapolis, and I've got a KnoxBox requirement. So the city has required that certain properties have a box that has inside of that a key to access the building. Think of it kind of like when you're selling your home, you put the little thing on the front door, and there's a way you can get into to get that key. Today, there's both regular and digital keys that can be obtained for that purpose. But the idea simply is that no matter what the facility is, there is an access point. The fire department has a key to all the properties, so master key for all the properties they can get into. They can get that local key for that particular customer, get into the facility fast, and validate there's an issue or not an issue. I'm amazed at the product selection of KnoxBox, and I'm still getting used to it myself. But being a distributor of their products in many of our markets, it's a proud moment because KnoxBox is a brand that people, if you know who KnoxBox is, it's a very well respected, trusted brand for the purpose of getting entrance into a facility through their different products and solutions, and so it's a very well thought of and very high integrity driven organization. So CertaSite being associated with it, to me, is a great fit. And it's another area, Scott, that where I don't necessarily need a big technician force to go out and service that or install that. It's a product that we sell on a will call basis most of the time. So in other words, we store the product. A customer has a need, whether it be a property manager, general contractor, an end user, they have a need, they can go and they can figure out what they need, and we can get it to them that day versus having to wait, several days to a couple of weeks to get it shipped to them from the supplier. KnoxBox chose this program to give customers, again, what do they want? They want to get it faster. They want to be able to get it quickly in their local market. They want to have someone they can talk to about the different options and choices. So being a trusted partner, we've been trained. Our people know how to help customers find the right solution. And we have the solution in our warehouse, so they can come pick it up, or we can deliver it to them quickly. And I think KnoxBox realized that while they can ship things and people can order things, which is still a viable option, again, in today's world, Scott, everybody wants it today or tomorrow. When you say it's going to be a couple of weeks, I mean, we all fret to hear that, especially if we have a project we're trying to finish at a certain time or a requirement we've got to meet. So we're able to do that now in many of our markets, which is exciting.
Thank you. So as we're looking to sort of wind this down, is there an area or topic that we haven't talked about yet that either one of you would like to make sure is included?
Hey, last thing I'll share with you, Scott, that I think is kind of fun. I just put this out on LinkedIn, in fact, and I think I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. I want people to see this about CertaSite, but I also really want other business leaders, business owners to think about this kind of stuff, because I think our employees, you mentioned the Great Resignation, and we certainly were impacted by that as well. We're not perfect, and I say that on a regular basis. I wish I could say we're perfect and everything's 100% awesome here, and it is a very, very good place to be, and it's an exciting journey, and I'm really excited about that. But I just announced CertaSite started the CertaSite Cup series for 2022. And what that is, it's an opportunity for every branch to try and win the race, if you will, to providing the best fire life safety in the industry. And we're doing that in a couple of different ways. So we've defined kind of how you win your points and so forth. But my point simply is that doing things like that for your company, for your people, creating your winning attitude, having people that want to, do a great job in what they do every day, but also in their location for the customers. You want that to be part of the fun of being at work. Granted, it's one way that we're doing it, but I think it's so important that all of us today, and when you're smaller, if you're one location with 10 employees, you've got a much better chance of connecting with 10 people, than if you have 1,000 or more, as an example. But I think every business owner, every business leader out there has to be thinking about, how am I going to engage my people to be able to want to do their best for not only ourselves, but for our customers. And something like the CertaSite Cup Series is just one of those ways I'm doing it, because I like racing, and it's a fun way to do it. And by the way, originally I thought about doing something with a sports team, like I'm an IU fan. So if I were to say, hey, we're going to be the Hoosiers against the Buckeyes, I realized rather quickly that you can't win in that battle, because somebody who might be in Michigan may not be a Michigan fan. They might be a Michigan State or even an Ohio State fan, which is incredible to think about. And so I found racing was that neutral place that I could do it and hopefully not get in myself any kind of in a negative situation across the company. But I wanted to share that because I think it's, again, something that we're doing that I hope others are doing as well. I hope everybody in this industry is taking some time to realize that we've been through a lot. Let's have a little fun and let's do a great job for this industry.